The stars hung silent in the black void of space as the massive ship approached New Harmony Colony. The vessel was unlike anything the human settlers had seen before. It stretched nearly 2 miles long, covered in strange symbols that glowed with a pale blue light. The ship's hull was smooth and dark, reflecting nothing, as if it swallowed the light around it. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the defense station, watching the alien ship through the thick glass. His jaw was tight and his hands clasped behind his back. He had served in the Terran defense fleet for 15 years, but this was his first time seeing an alien vessel up close. The weight of the moment pressed down on him like a physical thing. "Sir, they're requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant Kate Palmer from the communications station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the slight tremor underneath. Everyone was nervous. Humanity had been alone in the galaxy for so long. Now someone had finally found them. "Grant them permission," Jake said, "and tell Amy to get ready. Looks like she's about to earn her pay as a diplomat." Amy Carter arrived 10 minutes later, smoothing down her formal suit. She was younger than Jake, only 32, but she had been trained for exactly this kind of situation. Earth had prepared diplomats for first contact ever since humans reached the stars. They just never thought it would actually happen. "How do I look?" Amy asked, trying to smile. "Like someone about to meet aliens for the first time," Jake replied. "Which is to say, terrified and trying not to show it." Amy laughed nervously. "That obvious?" "Only to me," Jake said. "You'll do fine. Just remember the protocols. Listen first, speak carefully, and don't make any promises without checking with Earth first." The airlock hissed open an hour later. The alien who stepped through was tall, nearly 7 feet, with gray skin that looked smooth like stone. Its eyes were large and golden, with vertical slits for pupils. It wore robes of deep purple that seemed to shift colors in the light. Behind it came 4 others, all similarly dressed but carrying what looked like ceremonial staffs. "I am Ambassador Prime Thelvos of the Zalvarian Empire," the lead alien said in perfect English. Its voice was deep and musical, but there was something cold beneath the words. "I speak for the Eternal Throne and bring greetings from the civilized galaxy." Jake and Amy exchanged quick glances. The translation device worked perfectly, which meant these aliens had been watching humanity for some time. Long enough to learn their languages. "Welcome to New Harmony," Amy said, stepping forward with an extended hand. "I am Amy Carter, representing the Terran government. This is Commander Jake Morrison of our defense forces." Thelvos looked at her hand for a moment, then touched it briefly with 2 long fingers. The skin felt cool and dry. "Charming," the alien said. "Your species still engages in physical contact rituals. How primitive." Jake felt his back stiffen, but Amy kept her smile fixed in place. "We believe in personal connection," she said smoothly. "Please follow us. We've prepared a meeting room where we can talk more comfortably." The meeting room was simple but clean. A large table dominated the center, surrounded by chairs. Large windows showed the colony below, where thousands of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that everything was about to change. Thelvos sat without waiting for an invitation. The other aliens remained standing behind him like guards. "Let us dispense with the pleasantries," the ambassador said. "I am here to inform you of your new status within the Zalvarian Empire. Your species has been observed for the past 50 of your years. We have determined that you possess basic technological capabilities and minimal strategic value. However, as per Imperial law, all species within our sphere of influence must submit to Imperial governance." Amy blinked. Jake felt his stomach drop. This wasn't a greeting. It was a demand for surrender. "I'm sorry," Amy said carefully. "I think there might be some misunderstanding. We're not looking to join any empire. Humanity values its independence." Thelvos made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Independence is not an option. The empire has existed for 4,000 years. We control 347 star systems. Over 600 species live under Imperial law. Your little collection of planets will be added to that number. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification." Jake stepped forward. "And if we refuse?" The alien's golden eyes fixed on him. "Then you will be conquered. The Empire does not tolerate resistance. We have fleets that could glass your worlds in days. We have weapons that could crack your planets like eggs. We have soldiers that have fought for centuries." Thelvos leaned forward. "Commander, your species has barely left its home system. You have 19 colonies across 12 systems. We have cataloged every ship you possess, every weapon you've built. You are children playing with toys, and you have encountered true power." The room fell silent. Amy looked at Jake, and he could see the question in her eyes. What do we do? They had prepared for many scenarios, but being told to surrender before even saying hello wasn't one of them. "We'll need time to discuss this with our government," Amy said finally. "You have one standard week," Thelvos replied, standing. "At the end of that time, you will transmit your acceptance of Imperial authority to the coordinates I provide. If we receive no response, or if your response is negative, the Empire will take appropriate action." The alien moved toward the door, then paused. "I should add, resistance is futile and always ends in extinction. 3 species have attempted to fight the Empire in the last 1,000 years. None of them exist anymore. Not even their worlds remain. We erase them from existence as a lesson to others." After the aliens left, Jake and Amy sat in silence for a long moment. "They're serious," Amy said quietly. "They really think they can just show up and own us." "Yeah," Jake agreed. "They do. What do we tell Earth?" Jake stood and walked to the window. Below, he could see children playing in a park, people walking to work, ships coming and going from the spaceport, normal life continuing as it always had. We tell them the truth, and then we prepare for war. The emergency transmission reached Earth 6 hours later. President Kyle Bennett called an immediate session of the Terran Senate. Military leaders, scientists, diplomats, and intelligence officers crowded into the secure chamber beneath the Capitol building. Nicole Wells, the head of Terran intelligence, presented what they knew about the Zalvarian Empire. It wasn't much. Some long-range observations, a few intercepted signals, old rumors from deep space probes. Nothing that prepared them for this. "They claim to control 347 systems," Nicole said, her voice grim. "Our analysis suggests they're not lying. We've detected massive energy signatures across that region of space for years. We just didn't know what they were. Can we fight them?" asked General Vorthan, head of the Terran Defense Fleet. Nicole hesitated. "Unknown. We have advantages in some areas. Our ships are faster, more maneuverable. Our weapons technology is different from anything we've seen them use. But their numbers," she shook her head. "Sir, they could probably throw 100 ships at us for every one we have." President Bennett sat back in his chair. He was an old man, gray-haired and weathered, but his eyes were sharp. "Has anyone in this room considered accepting their offer?" Silence fell over the chamber. Then Senator Chris Morgan stood. "Mr. President, perhaps we should consider the cost of resistance. If what they say is true, fighting could mean the extinction of our entire species. Maybe it's better to live under their rule than die free." "No." The voice was quiet but firm. Everyone turned to look at Admiral Lisa Morgan. She stood slowly, her uniform crisp and perfect. "I've spent my entire life in space, defending our colonies from pirates, raiders, and worse. I've seen what happens to species that give up their freedom. They don't just lose their independence, they lose their soul." She looked around the room. "If we surrender now, we're telling every human alive that we don't believe in ourselves, that we think we're inferior, that we're willing to let someone else decide our fate." She paused. "I say we fight, even if it means extinction?" Senator Morgan asked. "Better to die standing than live on our knees," Admiral Morgan replied. "And besides, they might have more ships, but they've never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. They think we're primitive and weak. Let's show them they're wrong." President Bennett looked at the faces around the room. He saw fear, yes, but he also saw determination. Humanity had clawed its way up from caves to the stars. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. They hadn't come this far to surrender to the first bully who showed up. "Draft a response," the president said finally. "Make it clear and simple. Tell them we decline their offer. Tell them we value our independence and will defend it." He stood, and everyone in the room stood with him. "And then tell them this. Terran Command warns the Galactic Empire cross our border and face oblivion. We will not fire first, but we will fire last." The message was transmitted 3 days later. Jake Morrison personally sent it from New Harmony Station. Amy Carter stood beside him as he hit the button. "Think they'll listen?" she asked. "No," Jake said. "But at least they can't say we didn't warn them." Across the void of space, on a massive command ship orbiting the Zalvarian fleet arrived at Frontier Station Omega, exactly when Admiral Krelvac said they would. 200 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. Each ship was massive, bristling with weapons that had conquered countless worlds. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of his ship, the Defender. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew what was coming. Everyone knew the odds. 12 human ships against 200 alien ones. It should have been suicide. Ryan was 40 years old, a career military man who had spent his entire adult life in space. He had fought pirates in the outer colonies and hunted smugglers through asteroid fields. He had seen combat before, but nothing like this. Nothing that would decide whether humanity lived or died. "They're hailing us," Lieutenant Kate Palmer said from communications. She had transferred to Ryan's ship 2 days ago, when Command reorganized the defensive fleet. Her voice was calm, professional. "Audio only. Put it through," Ryan said. The voice that filled the bridge was deep and arrogant. "Human vessels, this is Admiral Krelvax of the Zalvarian Imperial Fleet. You are ordered to power down your weapons and surrender immediately. This is your only warning. Comply or be destroyed." Ryan looked at his tactical officer, Lieutenant Danny Blake. The younger man was checking his readouts, fingers flying over his console. "All ships ready, sir," Danny reported. "Weapons hot, shields at maximum. We're as prepared as we're going to be." Ryan opened the channel. "Admiral Krelvax, this is Captain Ryan Brooks of the Terran Defense Fleet. You have been warned. Your ships are in violation of Terran space. Turn back now or face the consequences." There was a pause, then a sound that might have been laughter. Such brave words for someone about to die. "Very well, human. If you will not surrender, then you will be eliminated. Let this be a lesson to your species." The channel cut off. Ryan watched his sensors as 3 Zalvarian ships broke formation and began moving toward the borderline. They were big ships, each one probably carrying 1,000 crew members. They advanced slowly, arrogantly, as if daring the humans to do something about it. "They're crossing the line," Kate said quietly. Ryan didn't hesitate. "All ships fire at will. Target those 3 vessels. Show them we meant what we said." The human ships opened fire simultaneously. The void of space lit up with brilliant flashes as railguns launched their deadly cargo. The projectiles were simple, just dense metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds, but they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The Zalvarian shields flickered, then failed. The aliens had shields designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, and plasma. They weren't prepared for solid objects traveling at relativistic speeds. The railgun slugs punched through the shields like they weren't there, tearing into the alien hulls. The first Zalvarian ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. The second ship lasted a few seconds longer before its reactor went critical. The third ship tried to turn back, but human plasma torpedoes caught it in the engines. It tumbled end over end, atmosphere venting into space through a dozen hull breaches. 47 seconds. That's how long it took for 3 of the Empire's warships to die. On the Zalvarian flagship, Admiral Krelvax stared at his view screen in shock. The 3 ships were gone, just gone. Destroyed so quickly that they hadn't even had time to return fire. Around him, his officers stood frozen, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. "Impossible," Krelvax whispered. "Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our shields." "Admiral," his tactical officer said, voice shaking. "Their weapons aren't energy-based. They're using kinetic projectiles. Our shields are designed for different physics." Krelvax felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. These humans, these primitives, had technology he didn't understand. They had destroyed 3 warships in less than a minute. What else were they capable of? Then the fear transformed into rage. They had embarrassed him, made him look weak in front of his entire fleet. The Empire did not tolerate such insults. "All ships, attack," he roared. "Destroy them. I want every human vessel reduced to atoms." The Zalvarian fleet surged forward like a tidal wave of metal and death. 200 ships opened fire at once, filling space with energy beams, missiles, and plasma charges. The humans were outnumbered 17-1. The battle should have been over in minutes, but Captain Ryan Brooks had been trained for exactly this situation. The Terran Defense Fleet had spent decades preparing for war against a superior enemy. They had studied every battle in human history, learned from every defeat, and developed tactics specifically designed to let smaller forces defeat larger ones. "Execute Pattern Delta," Ryan ordered. "All ships scatter and engage." The 12 human ships broke formation and accelerated in different directions. They were faster than the Zalvarian vessels, more maneuverable. They darted between enemy ships, firing as they went, then jumping away before return fire could connect. The Defender dove under a massive Zalvarian battleship, railguns hammering at its belly. Armor buckled and tore. Secondary explosions rippled along the alien ship's hull. Ryan didn't wait to see if it was destroyed. He was already moving to the next target. Multiple enemy ships pursuing, Danny Blake reported. 17. No, 23 vessels trying to get a lock on us. Let them try, Ryan said. Kate, tell the fleet to maintain distance and pick their shots. We can't go toe-to-toe with them, so we hit and run. Make every shot count. The battle became a chaotic dance of death. The human ships moved like sharks through a school of fish, striking and vanishing, always staying just out of reach. The Zalvarian ships were powerful but slow, designed for conventional warfare where fleets met in organized lines and traded fire until one side broke. They didn't know how to fight enemies who refused to stand still, but the numbers were still against humanity. No matter how skilled the human crews were, no matter how advanced their weapons, 12 ships couldn't fight 200 forever. One by one, the Zalvarian fleet began to find their targets. The Courage took a direct hit from a plasma cannon. Its shields collapsed and the blast tore through the ship's midsection. Captain Stephanie Quinn and her crew of 97 died instantly, their ship breaking into pieces. The Victory lost its engines to a missile strike. Dead in space, it became an easy target. The Zalvarian ships swarmed over it, tearing it apart with concentrated fire. Ryan watched his tactical display as the green icons representing human ships winked out one by one. They were losing. Fighting better than anyone had expected, killing far more than they should have been able to, but still losing. The math was simple and brutal. Sir, Kate said quietly, we've lost 6 ships. Half the fleet is gone. Ryan's jaw tightened. They had hurt the enemy badly. His sensors showed over 80 Zalvarian ships destroyed or disabled. But it wasn't enough. Soon, the aliens would overwhelm the remaining human vessels. Soon the path to human colonies would be open. Captain, Danny Blake suddenly said, his voice excited, I'm reading new contacts. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. Ryan looked at his screen and felt hope surge through him. Reinforcements? Dozens of ships appearing at the edge of the system, all broadcasting Terran identification codes. And at their head, the biggest ship in humanity's fleet, the TDS Valiant. It's Admiral Morgan, Kate said, unable to hide her relief. She brought the entire 5th Fleet. Admiral Lisa Morgan's voice came over the communications channel, calm and steady. All Terran ships, this is Morgan. Hold position. We're taking over from here. The 5th Fleet swept into the battle like an avenging storm. These weren't the small patrol ships that Ryan commanded. These were humanity's warships, built specifically for this moment. Heavy cruisers with armor thick enough to shrug off enemy fire, fast destroyers that danced through space like deadly ghosts, and the Valiant herself, a battleship that carried enough firepower to level a city. Admiral Morgan stood on her bridge watching the tactical display. She was 53 years old, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much combat. She had been fighting for humanity's survival since before most of her crew were born. She knew war better than anyone alive. All ships concentrate fire on their capital vessels, she ordered. Destroyers hunt their escorts. Cruisers provide cover. Let's show these aliens what a real fleet looks like. The battle's momentum shifted immediately. The Zalvarian ships, already battered from fighting Ryan's small force, now faced an enemy of equal size and superior technology. Human ships tore through their formations, weapon systems optimized specifically to counter Zalvarian shields and armor. Admiral Krelvax watched his fleet fall apart. In less than an hour, he had lost over half his ships. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were winning. It was impossible. It went against everything he knew about warfare, about the Empire's superiority, about the natural order of the galaxy. Admiral, we must retreat, his second officer pleaded. We cannot win this battle. Krelvax wanted to refuse. The Empire didn't retreat. The Empire didn't lose. But he could see the reality on his screens. His flagship was damaged, his fleet shattered. If he stayed, they would all die. The Zalvarian High Council met in the ancient throne room on their capital world. 12 beings sat around a circular table carved from a single piece of black stone. Above them, the vaulted ceiling showed a map of the Empire, 347 systems marked in glowing light. Each member of the council represented centuries of power and tradition. They were arguing. "We must respond with overwhelming force," demanded General Vorthen, the Empire's supreme military commander. His gray skin was marked with scars from a dozen wars. "These humans have made us look weak. If we do not crush them immediately, our subject species will begin to question our authority." "Perhaps that is a sign we should negotiate," suggested Councillor Miravan, one of the elder statesmen. "The humans clearly have technology we did not expect. Maybe peaceful coexistence would serve us better than war." Vorthen slammed his fist on the table. "Coexistence? They destroyed over 100 of our ships. They killed thousands of our warriors. If we negotiate now, we appear weak. Every species in the Empire will see it as surrender." "Better to appear weak than to be destroyed," Miravan argued. "These humans fight differently than any enemy we've faced. Their weapons, their tactics, everything is foreign to us. We need time to study them, understand them." The Emperor, an ancient being who had ruled for over 2 centuries, raised one thin hand. Silence fell immediately. "General Vorthen, how many ships can we assemble?" 800 warships, Your Majesty," Vorthen replied. "The largest fleet in our recorded history. We will bring such force that the humans cannot possibly resist. We will show the entire galaxy what happens to those who defy the eternal throne." The Emperor looked at each council member in turn. "Does anyone else wish to speak against this action?" No one did. Even Miravan remained silent. The decision was made. "Then it is ordered," the Emperor said. "Assemble the fleet. For General Vorthen, I want no mistakes this time. Study the human tactics. Learn how they fight. And when you engage them, I want total victory. I want their colonies reduced to rubble. I want their species broken so thoroughly that they become an example for the next 1,000 years. It will be done." "Your Majesty," Vorthen said, bowing low, "on Earth." President Kyle Bennett received the intelligence reports with a heavy heart. Nicole Wells, the head of Terran intelligence, stood before him in the Oval Office, her face grim. 800 ships, she said quietly. "Our long-range sensors picked up the fleet gathering at their staging grounds. This isn't a raiding party or an exploratory force. This is an invasion fleet designed to end us." Kyle looked out the window at the city beyond. People walked the streets, went to work, lived their lives. They didn't know that an armada of destruction was headed their way. "How long do we have?" 3 weeks, maybe 4, Nicole said. "They're being careful this time, making sure all their ships are in position before they move. They won't make the same mistake Admiral Krelvax made. What are our options?" "We fight," Nicole said simply. "We have maybe 200 warships if we pull in every vessel from every colony. We've been building as fast as we can since the first battle, but we're still outnumbered 4-1. Kyle turned back to her. "Can we win?" Nicole hesitated. "Admiral Morgan thinks we can. She has a plan. But it's risky, and it means abandoning our outer colonies temporarily." "Tell me," Kyle said. An hour later, Kyle stood before the Terran Senate. The chamber was packed. Every senator present, along with military commanders, scientists, and advisors. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood beside the president, her uniform perfect despite the long days of planning. "Members of the Senate," Kyle began, "the Zalvarian Empire is coming. They're bringing 800 ships and they intend to wipe us from the galaxy. I won't lie to you. The odds are against us, but we're not going to surrender and we're not going to run. We're going to fight and we're going to win." He gestured to Admiral Morgan. "The Admiral has developed a strategy that plays to our strengths, but it requires something difficult. We must evacuate the outer colonies and fall back to defensive positions around our core worlds." The chamber erupted in voices. Senators stood, shouting questions and objections. Kyle raised his hands for silence. "I know what I'm asking," he said. "Those colonies represent decades of work, thousands of families. But if we try to defend everything, we'll lose everything. Admiral Morgan's plan gives us a chance. I'm asking you to trust her, and to trust that our people are strong enough to do what's necessary." Senator Chris Morgan, a distant cousin of the Admiral, stood. "Mr. President, how can we ask people to abandon their homes? Some of those colonies have been settled for 30 years. Admiral Lisa Morgan stepped forward. "Senator, I grew up on one of those outer colonies. I understand what we're asking. But those homes mean nothing if everyone in them is dead. We evacuate now, we save lives. And when this is over, when we've beaten the Empire, those people can go home again. That's a promise. The vote was close, but it passed. The evacuation orders went out immediately. On 17 colony worlds, humans packed their belongings and boarded transport ships. They left behind farms and factories, schools and parks, the lives they had built. Many cried. Some refused to leave until soldiers physically carried them to the ships. But within 2 weeks, over 3 million people had been relocated to the core worlds. The colonies sat empty, waiting. Admiral Morgan stood on the bridge of the Valiant, reviewing her battle plans one more time. Her second-in-command, Captain Brandon Turner, stood beside her. He was younger, only 38, but he had proven himself in the first battle. She trusted his judgment. "You really think this will work?" Brandon asked quietly. "It has to," Lisa said. "We can't beat them in a straight fight. They have too many ships, too many weapons, so we don't fight straight. We fight smart." The plan was complex, using every advantage humanity possessed. The human ships were faster, able to jump into and out of faster-than-light travel more quickly than the Zalvarian vessels. Their weapons could adapt in real time, adjusting frequencies and targeting protocols on the fly. And they had something the Empire had never seen before: automated defense networks. Over the past 2 weeks, human ships had seeded the space around their colonies with thousands of mines, weapons platforms, and sensor drones. Each one was controlled by advanced artificial intelligence, coordinated through quantum-encrypted networks. The Empire would be flying into a trap of unprecedented sophistication, but would it be enough? The Zalvarian fleet entered human space 3 weeks later, led by Fleet Marshal Krivash, the Empire's most decorated commander. He was older than Forthan, with skin so dark it was almost black, marked with the symbols of 100 victories. He had never lost a battle in his 3 centuries of service. He studied the tactical displays with cold calculation. "The human colonies are empty," he noted. "They've evacuated." "Yes, Marshal," his intelligence officer confirmed. "Our scouts report no life signs on any of the outer worlds. They've pulled back to their core systems." Krivash nodded. "Smart. They know they can't defend everything, so they've concentrated their forces. It won't save them, but it shows they're not complete fools." He gestured at the map. "We'll bypass the empty colonies and head straight for their populated worlds. If they want to defend those, they'll have to meet us in open battle." The fleet advanced deeper into human space. They moved slowly, carefully scanning for threats. The humans had surprised them once. Krivash wouldn't let it happen again. Then the first mine exploded. It was a small device, no bigger than a person, but it had been waiting in the darkness, powered down and invisible to sensors. When the Zalvarian vanguard passed within range, it activated and detonated with the force of a small nuclear weapon. 3 escort ships were destroyed instantly. "Defensive positions," Krivash ordered. "All ships, maximum shields. Scan for more mines." They found thousands. The entire region of space was filled with them. A minefield of such density that navigating through would be nearly impossible. The Zalvarian fleet slowed to a crawl, using their weapons to clear a path. It took them 6 hours to advance 1 light hour. Then the weapons platforms opened fire. They had been disguised as asteroids, chunks of rock drifting in space. But they were actually fortified positions armed with railguns and missile launchers. They attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, their AI systems coordinating perfectly to maximize damage. The Zalvarian fleet staggered under the assault. Ships took hits, shields overloaded, armor buckled. They returned fire, destroying the platforms one by one. But for everyone they killed, 2 more seemed to appear. "How many of these weapons do they have?" Krivash demanded. "Unknown, Marshal," his tactical officer replied. "Our scans show hundreds, maybe thousands. They're everywhere." It took the Empire 3 days to advance through 1 star system. They lost 47 ships doing it, and they hadn't even seen the human fleet yet. On the Valiant, Admiral Morgan watched the progress reports with satisfaction. "They're bleeding," she said. "Every hour they spend fighting our automated defenses is an hour they're not fighting us. And every ship they lose makes them weaker." "They're adapting, though," Brandon warned. "They're learning to identify the platforms faster, coordinating their fire better. Eventually, they'll push through." Fleet Marshal Krivash sat alone in his quarters aboard the damaged flagship, staring at the reports. 2 battles, 2 defeats. The Empire had lost nearly 300 warships fighting humans. 300 ships that should have been enough to conquer a dozen star systems. All gone, reduced to debris and scattered atoms. He had underestimated them. They all had. The humans didn't fight like any species the Empire had encountered. They didn't line up their ships and trade fire until one side broke. They didn't follow the established rules of warfare that had existed for thousands of years. They fought like demons, appearing and vanishing, striking from impossible angles using weapons that defied conventional defense. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he said. General Vorthen stepped inside, his face a mask of controlled rage. "The High Council is demanding answers, Marshal. The Emperor wants to know why we failed." "We failed because we didn't understand our enemy," Krivash said simply. "We treated them like every other primitive species we've conquered. We assumed our experience and numbers would be enough. We were wrong. So what do we do now?" Vor then asked. "Pull back? Sue for peace? The Council is divided. Half want to continue the war, half want to negotiate." Krivash stood, looking out the window at the stars. "We can't negotiate, not now. If we try to make peace after 2 defeats, we look weak. Every species we've conquered will see it as an opportunity to rebel. The Empire will fall apart." He turned to face Vorthen. "We have to win. Whatever it takes, we have to defeat these humans." "How?" Vor then asked. "They've beaten us twice. Their technology is more advanced than ours. Their tactics are unpredictable. How do we fight an enemy we don't understand?" "We learn," Krivash said. "We've recorded everything from both battles. Every weapon signature, every tactical maneuver, every pattern. We analyze it all. We find their weaknesses, and then we come back with a strategy designed specifically to counter their advantages." He paused. "And we bring more ships. Many more." On Earth, the celebrations were brief. Humanity had won 2 battles against impossible odds, but everyone knew the war wasn't over. President Kyle Bennett addressed the planet from the Capitol building. His image broadcast to every colony, every station, every human outpost. "We have proven that we can defend ourselves," he said, "but the Empire won't stop. They can't afford to. We've embarrassed them, shown the galaxy that they're not invincible. They'll come back, and when they do, they'll bring everything they have." In the crowd listening to the speech stood millions of humans, from soldiers to civilians, all united in determination. They had chosen to fight for their freedom, and they would see it through to the end. Admiral Lisa Morgan was already planning for the next battle. She stood in the war room deep beneath Terran Command headquarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing every system, every ship, every resource humanity possessed. Commander Brandon Turner entered carrying a datapad. "Admiral, we've completed the analysis of the Zalvarian fleet tactics. I think we've found something interesting." Lisa looked up. "Show me." Brandon activated a hologram showing the battle at Deneb. "Watch how their ships respond when we jump in and out of FTL. See that delay? It takes them approximately 3 seconds to reacquire targets after we disappear. And look at this. Their formation coordination breaks down when we attack from multiple vectors simultaneously. They're trained for conventional warfare, face-to-face engagements. Our chaos tactics confuse their command structure, so we keep doing what we're doing," Lisa said. "Yes, but we can do it better," Brandon replied. He pulled up another display. "We've been holding back. We didn't want to reveal all our capabilities in the first battles. But I think it's time to show them what humanity is really capable of." Lisa smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "What did you have in mind?" 3 weeks later, the Zalvarian fleet returned to human space. This time they brought over 1,000 ships. Marshal Krivash had stripped every sector of the Empire, pulling in vessels from across their territory. This was the full might of the Eternal Throne, assembled for one purpose: the complete destruction of humanity. The fleet moved carefully this time, using advanced sensors to detect mines and weapons platforms before they could attack. They swept space ahead of them, destroying automated defenses methodically. It took longer, but they suffered minimal casualties. "The humans have retreated again," Krivash's intelligence officer reported. "Our scouts show their fleet gathered at Deneb, same as before. Approximately 250 ships. They're trying the same strategy," Vorthen said. "They think they can hit and run again, use their faster-than-light jumps to confuse us." "Let them think that," Krivash said. "We're ready for them this time. I've divided our fleet into smaller tactical groups. Each one can operate independently and respond to threats quickly. When the humans jump into attack, we'll be ready to hit them from multiple directions. We'll turn their own tactics against them." The Zalvarian fleet entered the Deneb system in perfect formation. 1,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled by the Empire. They advanced on the planet where the human fleet waited. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the enemy approach on her displays. Around her, the crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment, prepared for every scenario. Now it was time to see if all that preparation would be enough. "They're adapting to our tactics," Captain Brandon Turner said from his position at Tactical. "See how they've spread out? They're not bunching up like before. Smart." "Very smart," Lisa agreed. "But they're still thinking conventionally. They still don't understand what we're really capable of." She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Morgan. Today we show the Empire the truth. Today we show them that humanity doesn't just survive. We thrive, we adapt, we win." She paused. "Execute Protocol Omega, show them everything." The human fleet suddenly came alive with activity. Every ship activated systems they had kept hidden during the previous battles. New weapons emerged from concealed bays. Advanced electronic warfare suites began broadcasting on frequencies the Zalvarians had never encountered. And, most importantly, coordination between the ships reached a level that seemed almost impossible. Commander Brandon Turner watched his tactical display light up like a Christmas tree. Every human ship was linked through quantum-entangled communication nodes, allowing instant data sharing across the entire fleet. Each captain could see what every other captain saw. Each tactical officer could coordinate fire with dozens of others simultaneously. The human fleet didn't fight as 250 separate ships. It fought as a single organism with 250 weapons. "Engage," Admiral Morgan said quietly. The battle began, and the Zalvarians immediately realized something was wrong. The humans weren't just jumping in and out randomly anymore. They were moving with perfect coordination, appearing in positions that created crossfire zones, targeting specific ships with concentrated fire from multiple angles. A Zalvarian battleship exploded as 6 human ships appeared around it simultaneously, each one firing railguns at the exact same moment. The combined impact overwhelmed shields and tore the vessel apart. Krivosh watched 3 more of his ships die in quick succession. "Adaptive fire patterns," he ordered. "They're coordinating their attacks. Adjust shields to rotate frequencies, make them work harder to find gaps." But the human weapons were adapting too. Advanced targeting computers analyzed shield frequencies in real time and adjusted railgun trajectories to exploit weaknesses. Plasma torpedoes changed their energy signatures mid-flight to penetrate defenses. The Empire's shields, which had protected them for millennia, were suddenly inadequate. Then the human electronic warfare began. Lieutenant Kevin Price sat at his station aboard the TDS Thunderstrike, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. He was a cyber warfare specialist, and his target was the Zalvarian communication network. "I'm in," he said to his captain. "They're using quantum encryption, but it's an old protocol. Give me 2 minutes and I can start feeding them false data." 2 minutes later, Zalvarian ships began receiving phantom orders. Ships turned to engage targets that didn't exist. Formation coordinates became scrambled. Several vessels actually opened fire on each other, their targeting systems fooled by the human electronic warfare. Major Danny Blake led a boarding team onto a crippled Zalvarian cruiser. His Marines moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency, their armor protecting them from the thin atmosphere. The Zalvarian crew tried to fight back, but human training and equipment were superior. Within 15 minutes, Blake's team had captured the ship's bridge and secured critical intelligence data. "Admiral," Blake reported over the communication channel, "we've got their encryption keys and tactical protocols. Uploading now." With that information, the human cyber warfare became even more effective. Kevin Price and dozens of other specialists began infiltrating Zalvarian systems across the fleet, turning their own technology against them. But the Empire still had numbers on their side. For every Zalvarian ship that fell, there were 5 more to take its place. The human fleet was taking damage too. Ships lost shields, suffered hull breaches, vented. The Terran Senate chamber was filled with voices, dozens of senators all talking at once. President Kyle Bennett sat at the head of the room, listening to the debate that had been going on for 3 hours. The question before them was simple but profound. What should humanity do now? Senator Chris Morgan stood at his podium, his voice cutting through the noise. "Mr. President, we've won 3 battles against the Empire. We've proven we can defend ourselves. Isn't it time to negotiate? We could send diplomatic envoys, establish a peace treaty, end this war before more people die. Other senators nodded in agreement. The war had been costly. Over 15,000 human lives lost, dozens of ships destroyed, resources strained to the breaking point. Many people wanted it to end. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood in her uniform at the back of the chamber. She had been invited to observe the debate, but she had said nothing so far. Now she stepped forward. "May I speak, Mr. President?" she asked. Kyle nodded. "The floor recognizes Admiral Morgan." Lisa walked to the center of the chamber and every eye turned to her. "I understand the desire for peace," she said. "I've seen the casualty reports. I've attended the funerals. I've looked families in the eye and told them their loved ones died heroes. Every loss weighs on me." She paused. "But we cannot negotiate with the Empire." "Not now." "Why not?" Senator Morgan challenged. "They came to us demanding surrender. We've shown them we're too strong to conquer. Surely they'll accept peace now." "Will they?" Lisa asked. "The Empire has existed for 4,000 years. They've conquered hundreds of worlds. Their entire identity is built on the idea that they're superior to everyone else. We haven't just defeated them in battle. We've challenged their fundamental belief about their place in the galaxy." She looked around the room. "If we offer to negotiate now, they'll see it as weakness. They'll regroup, rebuild, and come back stronger. And next time they might actually win." "So what do you propose?" asked another senator. "We keep fighting forever?" "No," Lisa said. "We end this war. But we end it on our terms, not theirs." She gestured to the star map displayed on the chamber's main screen. "The Empire is vulnerable right now. They've lost nearly half their military fleet. Their subject species are restless. Seeing that the great Empire can be beaten, we have a window of opportunity that won't last long." She paused, letting her next words sink in. "I propose we take the war to them. We march on the Imperial capital. We force them to surrender and we make sure they never threaten us again." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Attack the Empire? Invade their territory? It seemed insane. President Bennett raised his hand for silence. "Admiral, that's a massive undertaking. We'd be fighting deep in enemy territory, far from our supply lines, against an enemy that could throw everything they have at us." "Yes, sir," Lisa agreed. "But consider the alternative. If we sit back and wait, they'll rebuild. They'll study our tactics, develop countermeasures, and come back with new strategies. Right now, we have technological and tactical superiority. Right now, they're afraid of us. If we strike now while they're weak and demoralized, we can end this war permanently." The debate continued for another hour, but in the end, the vote passed. By a narrow margin, the Terran Senate authorized offensive operations against the Zalvarian Empire. Humanity was going to war, not to defend their borders, but to ensure those borders would never be threatened again. The preparation took 3 weeks. Every shipyard in human space worked around the clock, repairing damaged vessels and constructing new ones. The Terran defense fleet swelled to over 300 ships, the largest force humanity had ever assembled. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to command the TDS Horizon, reviewed his new assignment with a mixture of pride and nervousness. He would be leading the advance fleet, the ships that would jump into enemy territory first and clear the way for the main force. Amy Carter, no longer just a diplomatic liaison but now Earth's chief diplomat, met with him in his quarters before departure. "You know this is crazy, right?" she said with a slight smile. "Completely insane," Jake agreed. "We're attacking an empire that controls hundreds of worlds with a force that could barely defend one system a month ago." "And yet here we are," Amy said. She handed him a data chip. "If we get to the throne world, if we actually manage to beat them completely, you'll need this. It's the terms for their surrender. Make sure they understand we're not here to conquer them. We're here to free them." Jake looked at the chip, then at her. "You really think we can do this?" "I've seen what humans can do when they fight for their freedom," Amy said. "We've done the impossible 3 times already. Why not a 4th? The Terran fleet departed 3 days later. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the stars stretch into lines as they entered faster-than-light travel. Behind her ship came 300 others, each one carrying humans who had volunteered to fight in the most dangerous military operation in history. Commander Brandon Turner reviewed the tactical data one more time. "First target is the Korvax system, one of the Empire's outer military bases. Intelligence says it's defended by about 40 ships. Then we hit it fast and hard, Lisa said. We don't give them time to call for reinforcements. We jump in, destroy their defenses, and jump out before they know what happened. The battle at Korvax lasted 20 minutes. The human fleet appeared without warning, targeted the military installations with precision strikes, and vanished back into faster-than-light travel before the Zalvarian defenders could mount an effective response. 40 enemy ships destroyed, 0 human casualties. News of the attack spread across the Empire like wildfire. The humans weren't defending anymore. They were attacking. Species that had been conquered by the Zalvarians for centuries suddenly saw hope. If the humans could fight the Empire, maybe they could too. On the planet Veltar, a species called the Norim rose in rebellion. They had been slaves to the Empire for 300 years, working in mines and factories. Now they seized weapons and fought their Zalvarian overlords. The uprising was brutal and bloody, but it succeeded. Veltar declared its independence. Similar rebellions broke out across the Empire. Dozens of worlds saw the human advance and decided to fight for their own freedom. The Empire, already weakened by military defeats, now faced internal collapse. Fleet Marshal Krivash watched the reports with growing despair. We're losing control, he said to General Vorthan. The humans have inspired a galaxy-wide revolution. Even if we defeat them, we'll spend decades reconquering the systems we've lost. Then we need to stop them before they reach the capital, Vorthan said. Gather every available ship. We make our final stand at Zalvar Prime. If we can defeat them there in sight of the throne world, maybe we can salvage this situation. The Zalvarian High Council met in emergency session. The Emperor looked older than his centuries, the weight of the crisis visible on his face. Marshal Krivash, General Vorthan, I am authorizing you to use whatever means necessary to stop the human advance. The survival of the Empire depends on it. What about negotiation? Asked Counselor Miravan. Perhaps we could offer terms before more lives are lost. The humans are not interested in terms, the Emperor said. They're coming to destroy us. This is now a fight for survival. He stood, his robes flowing around him. The Eternal Throne has stood for 4 millennia. It will not fall to a species that learned to travel between stars only decades ago. We will fight, and we will win. Or we will die trying. The human fleet continued its advance, jumping from system to system. Captain Jake Morrison and his advance fleet encountered Zalvarian forces at every stop. But the humans had become masters of hit-and-run tactics. They struck hard and vanished before the enemy could respond effectively. At the Telner system, Jake's ship engaged a small Zalvarian patrol. The battle was brief but intense. Lieutenant Kate Palmer coordinated communications perfectly, allowing the human ships to focus fire on specific targets. The patrol was destroyed in minutes, but they were also finding allies. Major Laura Wells, commanding a company of Terran Marines, made contact with resistance fighters on occupied worlds. She provided them with weapons, training, and tactical support. The rebels weren't just grateful, they were eager to join the fight. These people have suffered under the Empire for generations, Laura reported to Admiral Morgan. Give them a chance and they'll fight like tigers. We could recruit thousands of fighters from the liberated worlds. Do it, Lisa approved. The more forces we have, the better our chances. The combined human and allied fleet grew as it advanced. By the time they reached the outskirts of the Imperial core systems, the fleet had swelled to over 500 ships. Nearly half of them were crewed by aliens who had joined the cause of freedom. The final approach to Zalvar Prime took 2 days. The Empire had assembled its last major fleet in orbit around the capital world. Over 600 ships, everything they could scrape together from across their collapsing territory. It was do or die for both sides. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood on her bridge looking at the tactical display. The Zalvarian fleet was arrayed in traditional defensive formation around their home world. It would be the biggest battle of the war, possibly the biggest battle in galactic history. This is it, Brandon said quietly beside her.